Welcome to tonight's gentle lecture. Please make yourself comfortable. Maybe even sit in your favorite chair, because in the next few minutes, we'll slowly drift through one of nature's quiet miracles, photosynthesis. The story of how sunlight becomes life, told softly to help your mind wander and your body fall asleep. The first golden rays of morning stretch gently across the horizon, painting the sky in soft shades of pink, amber, and gold. A gentle breeze stirs the leaves, carrying the fresh scent of earth, dew, and new beginnings. Birds chirp quietly, celebrating the arrival of a day full of light and possibility, while sunlight warms your skin like a gentle hug. You step into this living world, noticing leaves swaying, water glistening in the streams, and the forest quietly humming with energy. Everything feels alive, harmonious, and full of promise, as if nature itself is smiling, inviting you to witness the quiet miracles of life unfolding. The night lingers, soft and patient, like a parent waiting for a child to stir. The air is cool against your skin, carrying the faint scents of soil and dew. All around you, the world is wrapped in a deep stillness, the kind that only exists just before dawn. The stars are fading one by one, their brilliance surrendering to the pale, expectant light creeping up from the horizon. You inhale, and the world seems to inhale with you, slow, calm, united in this shared pause. Above the distant hills, a faint blush spreads across the sky. It starts as a shy whisper of pink, then grows richer, bolder, as if the heavens themselves are waking from a dream. The line where earth meets sky softens, no longer a sharp divide, but a gentle meeting place. It is here, in this delicate in-between, that something ancient begins again. You listen, not for sound, but for movement. The world is shifting. Invisible currents of energy are gathering beyond the horizon. Far away, the sun, a sphere of roiling plasma more than 100 times wider than Earth, is preparing to spill its light once more. Photons that began their journey in the sun's core tens of thousands of years ago are moments away from touching your skin. They were born from nuclear fusion, hydrogen atoms pressed together under unimaginable pressure, fusing into helium, releasing light. That light has traveled through the sun's layers, bounced between atoms, then surged through the vacuum of space at the speed of light. And now it is about to arrive. The first ray breaks the horizon like a slow exhale. The landscape shivers in gold. Shadows retreat, stretching behind trees and stones, as if bowing in reverence. You watch as light paints the world, stroke by stroke. The glint on a blade of grass, the shimmer on a spider's web, the faint glow outlining distant mountains. It feels intimate, as if the light has come not just to touch the earth, but to greet you personally. The arrival of dawn is not just beautiful, it is essential. For countless forms of life, this light is the signal to awaken, to grow, to live. Plants, anchored silently in the soil, sense the change instantly. In their leaves, microscopic structures called chloroplasts stir like tiny factories awaiting power. Inside each chloroplast lies chlorophyll, a molecule that has shaped the history of our planet. It absorbs light, particularly in the blue and red wavelengths, and begins a process that will sustain almost every living thing you know. Photosynthesis. Imagine each leaf as a quiet stage. The light falls like a spotlight, and the molecules inside begin their dance. Water, drawn up through roots, arrives like a silent partner. Carbon dioxide drifts in from the air, swirling gently through microscopic pores called stomata. When light touches chlorophyll, it excites electrons, setting off a cascade of reactions. These reactions split water molecules, releasing oxygen as a byproduct, the very air you now breathe. The energy captured is stored in chemical bonds, creating sugars that fuel the plant's life. This is no small performance. It is the foundation of nearly every ecosystem on Earth. Through this quiet daily ritual, plants create the oxygen that fills your lungs and the food that fills the world's stomach. With every sunrise, this planet renews its commitment to life. As the light grows stronger, the colors around you deepen. Greens become vivid, as if leaves have been waiting all night to reveal their true selves. The ground warms. Dew evaporates in soft curls, like spirits rising. Birds begin to sing, their melodies weaving through the air like threads in a tapestry. Their chorus isn't random. Many birds time their songs precisely with the light, signaling territory, courtship, or simple joy in existence. It is as if the entire living world is synchronized to the rhythm of the sun. You close your eyes and let the warmth settle on your face. It's more than heat. It's a story reaching across space and time, from the sun's heart to your skin. Each photon that touches you carries the memory of its journey. Some left the sun just over 8 minutes ago, crossing 93 million miles of emptiness to arrive here. When they strike the surface of a leaf, they transform into the energy of life itself. But this story of light is not new. It is older than mountains, older than oceans, older even than the continents themselves. Billions of years ago, when the earth was young and lifeless, sunlight fell upon a barren world. There were no trees to catch it, no leaves to drink it in, only rock and water. Then, in shallow seas, microscopic organisms developed the ability to harness light. They were cyanobacteria, tiny architects of the future. Through their primitive form of photosynthesis, they released oxygen into the atmosphere, slowly transforming the air. Over millions of years, that oxygen allowed more complex life to emerge. Forests grew, creatures evolved. Eventually, humans stood here too, gazing at the dawn. Every sunrise you witness is a reminder of that ancient turning point. It is a daily echo of the moment when light met life for the first time and the planet began to breathe. As the sun climbs higher, shadows shorten and the world grows busier. In the fields, leaves stretch upward, following the light's path through the sky in a movement called heliotropism. A gentle, almost imperceptible turning, as if each leaf is watching its source with quiet devotion. Flowers unfurl, insects stir, energy flows through every vein, every root, every wing. The entire biosphere hums with purpose, powered by the simple act of light touching leaf. You take a slow step forward and feel the ground beneath you firm and alive. It hums softly, not with sound, but with the quiet certainty of cycles repeating. Day after day, the sun rises, life awakens, photosynthesis begins anew. And though the scene may seem ordinary, it is one of the most extraordinary rituals in the universe. The horizon, now bright, hides the stars completely. But the light you see is not endless. Even the sun has a lifespan. Billions of years from now, it will swell and change. Yet today, it burns steadily, gifting energy without pause. You stand bathed in its glow, aware that this daily gift fuels everything from the smallest leaf to your own heartbeat. The morning is no longer a hush, it is a song. Yet somewhere within this song, a deeper question stirs, quiet, like a ripple under still water. What happens to the light once the leaf captures it? How does this invisible energy become the green of forests, the sweetness of fruit, the life within you? The answer begins inside the leaf, in the hidden pathways of energy and matter. A journey has just begun, one that will lead from sunlight to sugar, from simple molecules to living forms. And as the light continues its gentle descent through layers of leaves, the story of transformation unfolds. The sun climbs gently, no longer shy at the horizon. Its light spills across fields and forests, touching each leaf like a silent invitation. You look closely, and the leaves seem to respond. Their edges uncurl, their surfaces angle toward the light, as if they've been waiting all night for this exact moment. In the hush of morning, this unfurling feels almost ceremonial, a green awakening timed perfectly with the deepening day. Each leaf is thin and fragile to the touch, yet within it lies an intricate world, more organized than any city. A leaf is not just a flat surface, it is a living landscape. Beneath its smooth exterior are layers of cells, arranged with quiet precision. The upper layer, called the epidermis, acts like a transparent shield, allowing light to pass through while protecting what lies beneath. Just below this surface is the palisade layer, rows of cells tightly packed, brimming with chloroplasts, each one ready to catch sunlight like tiny open hands. Deeper still lies the spongy layer, where air spaces form a hidden sky inside the leaf, letting gases flow in gentle currents. You imagine shrinking down, becoming small enough to walk among these cells. You'd find yourself surrounded by a shimmering green landscape. Sunlight streams through the upper layers like beams through stained glass. Each chloroplast glows faintly, stirred awake by the incoming light. They begin to move within their cells, drifting slowly like lanterns in a still pond. This movement is not random. It's a sign of life stirring, a preparation for the day's work. Throughout the night, the leaf rested. Stomata, the tiny pores on the underside of the leaf, were mostly closed, conserving water and pausing the exchange of gases. Now, as the warmth grows, signals ripple through the leaf, telling the stomata to open. Each pore is surrounded by two guard cells shaped like curved gates. As light strikes them, they swell with water, bending apart to create a microscopic doorway. Through these openings, carbon dioxide drifts inward, weaving through the spongy spaces toward the chloroplasts. At the same time, oxygen and water vapor slip outward, joining the morning air. This exchange, invisible to your eyes, is constant and delicate, the breath of the leaf syncing with the breath of the world. Meanwhile, deep inside each chloroplast, the true awakening begins. These tiny organelles, shaped like flattened spheres, hold within them intricate membranes stacked into structures called thylakoids. You picture them as tiny green pancakes stacked inside each chloroplast, and on their surfaces lie molecules of chlorophyll. When photons of sunlight strike these molecules, something extraordinary happens. Electrons leap into motion. This is the spark, the first step in turning light into life. The chloroplast's interior bursts into a quiet choreography. As light excites electrons, they cascade along a chain of proteins embedded in the thylakoid membrane. This movement powers tiny molecular pumps that move protons, creating a difference in charge across the membrane. It's as if the chloroplast is charging a battery, storing the light's energy in an invisible current. Then, specialized enzymes use this gradient to generate energy-rich molecules, ATP and NADPH. These are the currencies of the cell, packets of energy and electrons that will soon be used to build sugars from carbon dioxide. Yet none of this is loud. It happens in complete silence, within spaces far smaller than a grain of sand. If you could listen, you wouldn't hear a sound. But if you could feel, you might sense a soft hum, like the low vibration of a distant heartbeat, as millions of chloroplasts begin their day's work simultaneously. Each cell, each chloroplast, acts as part of a larger symphony, Together, they transform sunlight into energy, leaf by leaf, moment by moment. Above this hidden world, the leaf itself basks in sunlight. Its surface grows warm. Dew beads shrink and disappear, evaporating into the morning air. Insects crawl along the veins, drawn to the sweetness that will soon be produced. Tiny vibrations pass through the leaf as wind brushes against it, but the internal processes continue unaffected, steady, reliable, timeless. You notice the pattern of veins running through each leaf, branching like rivers across a landscape. These veins are more than decoration. They are highways. Through them, water flows upward from the roots, pulled by the sun's warmth and the evaporation of water from the leaves, a process called transpiration. As water exits through the stomata, it creates a gentle pull, drawing more water from below. This flow delivers the raw material needed for photosynthesis, ensuring that every cell remains hydrated and ready. At the same time, the sugars produced in the leaf will later travel through these veins downward, feeding the plant's growing tissues and roots. Energy flows both ways, up as water, down as sugar, like breath moving through a living body. As you watch, the morning brightens further. The sun is now high enough that its rays fall directly on the canopy. Shadows sharpen. The light is steady, filling every gap. Within the leaves, photosynthesis is no longer just beginning. It is in full swing. Carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight are converging to create the fundamental building blocks of life. In this quiet green space, energy is being captured and stored, not in batteries or machines, but in living matter. You step closer to a tree and place your palm gently against a leaf. It's soft, slightly warm. You can't see its inner workings, but you know they're happening beneath your touch. The leaf doesn't rush. It doesn't force anything. It simply opens itself to light, allows energy to flow, and trusts the processes refined over billions of years. In its stillness, there is mastery. This daily awakening has occurred for as long as plants have existed. Long before humans, long before animals, leaves greeted the sun and began this silent labor. The air you breathe right now was shaped by countless mornings like this. Millions of leaves inhaling carbon dioxide and exhaling oxygen, turning light into the foundation of ecosystems. Even the food on your table begins here, in this unseen transformation. The breeze shifts, carrying with it a faint scent of green, the fresh, earthy smell that rises when leaves warm in the sun. You breathe it in, and something within you softens. There's a comfort in knowing that these processes happen whether or not you watch them. They do not depend on applause. They are reliable, ancient, patient. Above you, a single leaf flutters in the breeze. Its movement catches the light in flashes, like a signal. Inside it, the machinery hums on. The leaf has awakened fully now, joining countless others in the grand work of the day. This green awakening will feed forests, fields, animals, and eventually you. It is a quiet promise, renewed with each sunrise. You tilt your head upward, following the sunlight as it filters through the canopy. The world is bathed in gold and green, but beyond this gentle morning labor lies a deeper story. What happens to the energy captured here? How does this invisible work shape the vast networks of life that stretch beyond the leaf? The morning light is steady now, pouring down like a warm stream. You stand beneath a tree and lift a single leaf toward the sun. It glows softly, almost translucent, revealing a hint of the intricate network within. To the naked eye, it's a simple shape, green, delicate, thin. But beneath this surface lies a world as complex as any city, humming silently with purpose. Imagine yourself shrinking, becoming small enough to slip through the thin skin of the leaf. You press your fingertips against the surface, and it yields like silk, allowing you to step inside. Instantly, the outside world fades, replaced by a glowing green interior. It's neither silent nor loud, more like the steady hush of a forest just before a breeze. All around you, cells form walls, corridors, and open spaces. You are inside the hidden architecture of the leaf. The first layer you encounter is the epidermis, a thin sheet of cells forming the leaf's outer skin. These cells fit together tightly, like bricks in a well-built wall, sealing the interior against unnecessary water loss and protecting it from invaders. Unlike the opaque bricks of a building, these are transparent, allowing light to pass through unhindered. Some are covered with a thin, waxy coating called the cuticle, glistening faintly like a layer of glass. This coating is the leaf's raincoat, keeping precious moisture from escaping under the hot sun. You walk across this surface and find tiny openings, stomata. They look like miniature doorways set into the wall, each guarded by two crescent-shaped cells. These guard cells control the opening and closing of the stomata, responding to light, humidity, and the plant's internal signals. In the cool morning, many of these doors are open, inviting carbon dioxide to flow inward and oxygen to flow outward. You peer through one of these openings and feel a faint breeze, the breath of the leaf moving in both directions at once. It's gentle, constant, and essential. Passing through the epidermis, you enter the palisade mesophil, a world of tall, column-like cells arranged neatly in rows. This is the main working floor of the leaf, where most of the sunlight is captured. The cells here are packed with chloroplasts, each glimmering like a tiny green jewel. Sunlight streams in from above, illuminating the space like light through a cathedral's stained glass. The cells stand upright to catch as much light as possible, maximizing their exposure. It's here that the leaf begins its daily transformation, turning light into chemical energy through photosynthesis. As you walk between these columns, it feels like moving through a sunlit forest of glass towers. Every cell is busy. Chloroplasts, drift slowly inside, adjusting their positions to catch or avoid sunlight depending on its intensity. When light is gentle, they spread out to soak in every ray. When it grows too strong, they gather along the cell walls, shielding themselves from damage. This constant movement is silent choreography, directed by the light itself. Below this orderly forest, the structure changes. The neat rows give way to a more open, airy environment, the spongy mesophyll. The cells here are loosely arranged, creating spaces between them like hidden courtyards. These air pockets allow gases to flow freely, distributing carbon dioxide from the stomata to the photosynthesizing cells and letting oxygen escape. As you step through, the air feels different, still, and yet alive, filled with drifting molecules. It's like walking through a quiet marketplace where invisible traders carry essential ingredients back and forth. Threading through these layers is the vascular system, the veins of the leaf. From your vantage point, they look like rivers branching through a landscape, dividing into smaller and smaller channels until they reach nearly every cell. These veins are composed of two main types of tissue, xylem and phloem. The xylem carries water and minerals upward from the roots, flowing like a hidden stream that feeds every corner of the leaf. The phloem transports sugars and other nutrients outward, distributing the products of photosynthesis to the rest of the plant. Together, they form a two-way transport network, one bringing life in, the other sending energy out. You walk along one of these veins. The xylem cells are hollow tubes, stiffened with lignin, forming a sturdy pipeline. Water races upward through them, not by pumps, but by the pull of evaporation from the leaf's surface, a process so consistent and powerful, it can lift water dozens of meters high in tall trees. Beside them, the phloem channels feel softer, like flexible tubes carrying a sweet, slow current. Here, sugars dissolved in water move from areas of production to areas of need, guided by pressure differences created by the plant itself. It's a silent, elegant distribution system. No motors, no wires, just the laws of physics and the steady flow of life. The deeper you wander, the more you realize that every structure inside the leaf serves multiple purposes at once. The epidermis protects but also admits light. The stomata breathe but also regulate water. The palisade cells absorb light while arranging themselves to prevent waste. The spongy layer facilitates gas exchange while maintaining structure. The veins support, transport, and connect. It's not just architecture, it's a living laboratory, built from cells that know their roles without ever speaking a word. You pause in the spongy layer and look upward. Light filters through the palisade cells above, like rays through green glass. The chloroplasts inside them are still at work, converting sunlight into energy molecules. Nearby, carbon dioxide drifts in from an open stoma, weaving through the air spaces until it reaches a waiting chloroplast. Inside, enzymes capture it and begin the complex process of turning it into sugar. This is where structure meets function. Every wall, space, and passageway is arranged to support this seamless transformation. In this quiet architecture, there is also adaptability. Leaves are not all the same. Some are thick and waxy, designed to conserve water in dry deserts. Others are thin and broad, perfect for catching sunlight in humid forests. Some have stomata only on their undersides to reduce water loss. Others, like those of floating water plants, place stomata on the upper surface. Some leaves are needle-like, reducing surface area to endure harsh winters. Each design is a variation on a shared theme, shaped by environment and evolution. The fundamental blueprint remains, but the details shift like melodies in a song. You walk deeper still and notice how the leaf supports not just itself, but other forms of life. Tiny insects make homes in creases and undersurfaces. Microscopic fungi form partnerships with roots and sometimes live in harmony within leaf tissues, helping with defense. Even bacteria find niches here, contributing to the leaf's health in ways scientists are still discovering. This architecture is not isolated. It's part of a larger ecological network, a node in the web of life. Eventually, you reach the base of the leaf, where the veins thicken and connect to the stem. It feels like stepping into a transportation hub. The flows of water, nutrients, and sugars converge here, moving seamlessly between leaf and plant. You realize that the leaf is both an independent world and a vital part of something larger, like a single cell in the body of the plant. You step back through the layers: spongy mesophyll, palisade forest, epidermal wall, and emerge once again into the bright morning. The leaf in your hand no longer seems simple. Its veins, pores, and layers are hidden in plain sight, a testament to nature's patient engineering. What once looked like a flat sheet of green is now a living structure with corridors and systems more intricate than any human design. You hold the leaf up to the sun again. Light pours through, and for a moment, you imagine the hidden world inside still unfolding. Cells breathing, veins flowing, chloroplasts dancing. You can't see it, but you know it's there, working tirelessly, day after day. Hold a leaf gently in your hand. At first it seems still, silent, unchanging. But beneath its smooth surface, something continuous and vital is happening. A breath so quiet it escapes your senses. The leaf, though rooted and unmoving, is engaged in a constant exchange with the world around it. It inhales and exhales, not with lungs, but through thousands of tiny openings scattered like invisible stars across its surface. This is the breath beneath, the leaf's silent dialogue with the air. If you look closely at the underside of a leaf through a microscope, you will find a landscape of small, oval-shaped mouths, stomata. Each stoma is framed by two curved guard cells, like paired gates that respond to light, water, and chemical signals. In the cool of morning, these gates open wide. Carbon dioxide, the raw ingredient for photosynthesis, drifts in. Oxygen, a byproduct of this process, floats out. Water vapor slips through as well, rising to the sky. It happens continuously, like the rhythmic movement of a sleeping chest. The air you breathe is part of this same flow. Every breath you take contains oxygen released by countless leaves through these microscopic portals. In turn, every exhale you give returns carbon dioxide to the air, the same molecule that leaves eagerly draw in. You and the leaf are connected, participating in the same global breath, each playing your role in an ancient exchange. Step closer in your imagination. Shrink down until you stand at the surface of the leaf. The world around you expands into a green terrain. Before you stretch fields of guard cells, each surrounding an opening that leads into the inner spaces of the leaf. Warm sunlight touches them, triggering a change within. Potassium ions move into the guard cells, water follows, and the cells swell. As they curve away from each other, the stoma opens like a door at dawn. Through these openings, carbon dioxide molecules drift inward. They move not because they are pushed, but because of diffusion, the natural movement from areas of higher concentration to lower. The air outside contains more carbon dioxide than the air within the leaf's inner spaces, so the molecules slip through the doorway, meandering into the spongy mesophyll. Once inside, they weave through a maze of air pockets until they find their way to a chloroplast, where they will be used to build sugars. Each molecule takes its own gentle journey, guided by nothing more than the quiet laws of physics. At the same time, oxygen molecules produced by photosynthesis travel in the opposite direction. They build up within the leaf's cells and eventually diffuse outward through the same stomatal doorways, returning to the atmosphere. This is the oxygen that fills your lungs and fuels your cells. Without this continuous leaf breath, the air you rely on would slowly lose its life-giving quality. There's a third traveler in this exchange, water vapor. As stomata open to take in carbon dioxide, water also escapes. This evaporation, called transpiration, is both a cost and a gift. The plant loses precious moisture, but the escaping water helps pull more upward from the roots, maintaining the flow through the xylem. It also cools the leaf's surface, like sweat on skin. And on a planetary scale, transpiration releases immense amounts of water into the atmosphere, contributing to the formation of clouds and influencing weather patterns. A single large tree can release hundreds of liters of water vapor into the air each day, creating invisible rivers that rise toward the sky. The balance between these three gases, carbon dioxide in, oxygen, and water out, is delicate. If the leaf opens its stomata too wide, it risks losing too much water. If it keeps them too closed, photosynthesis slows. Guard cells act as careful gatekeepers, responding moment by moment to light intensity, humidity, carbon dioxide levels, and internal water pressure. On a bright day, stomata may open wide, maximizing carbon uptake. On a dry, hot afternoon, they may narrow, conserving moisture, even at the cost of slower photosynthesis. This subtle dance ensures survival, adapting to the changing rhythms of the environment. From above, the process seems invisible. From within, it is a constant flow of molecules, entering, leaving, swirling through spaces too small to see. Inside the leaf, the spongy mesophyll acts like a quiet chamber, its open spaces filled with drifting gases. Here, carbon dioxide lingers just long enough to meet the chloroplasts waiting in the surrounding cells. Oxygen gathers, then slips away toward the nearest exit. It is not a forced breath, but a gentle diffusion, guided by gradients that never rest. This breath is ancient. Long before humans, before animals filled the skies and seas, tiny photosynthetic organisms began this exchange. Their slow exhalation of oxygen transformed Earth's atmosphere, making it breathable. The leaves around you are descendants of that lineage, continuing the same work with quiet devotion. Every forest, every meadow, every backyard tree participates in maintaining the balance of the air we all share. Consider this. Every breath you take contains oxygen that may have been exhaled by a distant forest, a single vine curling around a fence, or a patch of grass growing beside a river. The air carries no passport. Molecules released by a leaf in one part of the world can, over time, circle the entire globe. In this way, the quiet breathing of plants connects every corner of the planet in a shared, invisible rhythm. If you were to listen with senses attuned to the microscopic, the surface of a forest would sound like a million tiny sighs. Each leaf opening and closing, each molecule drifting, would create a symphony too soft for human ears, but powerful enough to shape the entire atmosphere. The air itself is a shared creation. Plants exhaling oxygen, animals returning carbon dioxide, the cycle repeating endlessly. Sometimes the breath pauses. At night, when sunlight fades, most stomata close. Photosynthesis sleeps, but respiration continues. The leaf takes in oxygen and releases carbon dioxide, just as you do. The rhythm changes, slowing down, resting, waiting for dawn to return. In certain plants, some stomata remain open at night, especially in species adapted to dry environments, following unique strategies like CAM photosynthesis to conserve water. Even in darkness, the breath never truly stops. It merely shifts tempo. You lift the leaf again to your lips, not to breathe it in, but to imagine the shared exchange between your lungs and its stomata. The boundary between you blurs. You are part of the same atmospheric loop, part of the same slow conversation between plant and planet. Every inhale you take is an echo of the leaf's work. Every exhale feeds the leaf's need. As the day warms, the stomata adjust. Some close partially to reduce water loss. Others remain open, feeding the ongoing work of photosynthesis. The balance shifts constantly, like a living equation written in invisible ink across the leaf's surface. There is no single moment of stillness, only continuous, silent negotiation between the plant and its world. Beneath the soft soil, in the cool shadowed darkness where light does not reach, roots stretch like delicate fingers. They explore the earth with patient certainty, weaving through grains of sand and clay, searching for moisture that hides between particles. The world down here is hushed, wrapped in dampness and stillness. Yet within this quiet realm, a vital journey begins. Each root hair, so fine it is nearly invisible, clings to tiny droplets that coat the soil. These hairs increase the root's surface area enormously, turning every inch into a sponge capable of drawing in water. The water doesn't rush, it seeps slowly, driven by differences in concentration. Where the soil holds more water than the root cells, the molecules drift inward through semi-permeable membranes. Osmosis, gentle, persistent, unstoppable, guides them in. Once inside, the droplets merge with the plant's inner flow. They enter the root's vascular tissue, specifically the xylem, a network of hollow tubes that run upward through stems and branches. These vessels are the plant's highways, invisible from the outside but as critical as arteries in a living body. Some of these tubes are formed from dead cells, hollow, reinforced with lignin to prevent collapse, creating continuous channels through which water can travel. At first glance, the journey upward seems impossible. Water is heavy, and gravity constantly pulls it downward. How could a tree, sometimes tens of meters tall, lift this liquid through its trunk without pumps or moving parts? The secret lies in a beautifully coordinated partnership between physics and biology, between earth and sky. Deep inside the leaf canopy, transpiration begins. As sunlight warms the surface of leaves, water evaporates through the stomata into the surrounding air. Each departing molecule pulls on the one behind it, like a long chain of climbers ascending a wall. This creates a negative pressure, a gentle suction that draws water upward from the roots, through the xylem, toward the leaves. It is as if the sky itself is sipping from the soil below. This process is called the cohesion-tension mechanism, and it depends on two special properties of water: cohesion and adhesion. Cohesion means that water molecules stick to one another through hydrogen bonds, forming an unbroken column from root to leaf. Adhesion means they also cling to the walls of the xylem, helping the column resist gravity's pull. Together, these forces allow plants to lift water higher than any human machine could without breaking the chain. As the droplets rise, they pass through the endodermis, a thin layer of cells that acts like a gatekeeper. The endodermis ensures that water and dissolved minerals enter the xylem in a controlled way. A waxy band called the Casparian strip wraps around these cells, blocking passive flow between them and forcing water to pass through cell membranes where nutrients can be selectively absorbed. Calcium, magnesium, potassium, nitrate. These nutrients dissolve in the water and join the upward stream, turning it into a nutrient-rich current. In the stem, the xylem vessels run in bundles, often alongside phloem, the tissue that carries sugars downward and sideways. If you were to look at a cross-section under a microscope, you'd see rings, bundles, or scattered patterns depending on the plant species. Each vessel is like a polished pipe, guiding countless molecules upward in perfect silence. The journey is not uniform. Some pathways carry water quickly, others trickle more slowly. Temperature, humidity, wind, and soil moisture all influence the flow. On hot, dry days, transpiration increases, pulling more water upward to replace what's lost. On cool, humid nights, the flow slows, sometimes reversing slightly. Yet the xylem never truly rests. Water continues its slow ascent even in the dark. Picture a towering tree at dawn. As the sun begins to warm the air, leaves start to open their stomata. Evaporation increases. The tension in the xylem grows. Deep below, roots respond by drawing in more water, matching the pull from above. It's a perfectly balanced system, like a well-tuned instrument playing a continuous, inaudible note. For small plants, this journey may only span a few centimeters, but for a giant redwood, water must rise more than 100 meters, equivalent to climbing a 30-story building. Scientists once wondered if such heights were even possible. But measurements have shown that the cohesive forces within water and the suction created by transpiration are powerful enough to lift water to those extraordinary heights. Though the flow slows and the risk of air bubbles, cavitation, increases. Cavitation occurs when air enters the xylem, breaking the continuous water column. It can happen during drought or freezing. When an air bubble forms, it interrupts the flow like a gap in a straw. But plants have evolved strategies to cope. Some redirect flow around the blockage through interconnected vessels. Others can dissolve the bubbles when conditions improve, healing their internal rivers. Meanwhile, nutrients carried within this stream find their destinations along the way. Some are deposited in growing cells, fueling new leaves and flowers. Others reach the canopy, where they support photosynthesis, the leaf's grand performance. Every droplet carries the potential to become part of a sugar molecule, a scent in a flower, or the structure of a new branch. The upward journey of water also plays a role in cooling the plant. As water evaporates from the leaves, it removes heat, keeping tissues at a stable temperature. This evaporative cooling is essential, especially on hot days, preventing damage to delicate cellular machinery. As evening approaches, the rhythm shifts. Stomata close to conserve moisture. Transpiration slows, and the suction within the xylem decreases, but water doesn't stop moving entirely. roots continue to absorb moisture, and some plants release excess water through guttation, tiny droplets that appear on leaf edges during cool nights. These droplets are not dew, they are the plant's gentle exhale after a day of upward striving. Imagine walking through a forest just before sunrise. The air is damp, leaves glisten with beads of water. Beneath your feet, unseen rivers climb upward through every stem and trunk, drawn by forces older than any civilization. It is a continuous, silent migration, water returning from earth to sky, leaf by leaf, tree by tree. If you listen closely, you won't hear the sound of rushing water. The movement is too slow, too fine. But if you could place a sensitive instrument against the trunk, you might detect faint vibrations as the xylem tightens with each new pull from above. It's as if the tree inhales through its roots, exhales through its leaves, and all the while stands perfectly still. The journey of water is not just mechanical. It is also a bridge between worlds. It connects the soil's hidden reservoirs with the vast openness of the atmosphere. It carries minerals from stone into living tissue, turning inanimate particles into green growth. Through this ceaseless flow, plants mediate the relationship between land and sky. And so, as night fades and day brightens, the first droplets begin to rise once again. A rhythm older than mountains, repeated every morning with unwavering grace. Each molecule that travels upward is part of a collective story, one that sustains forests, fields, and the very air you breathe. You close your eyes and imagine those invisible rivers, climbing silently inside every stem, every blade of grass. A single drop begins its ascent from the cool darkness below, pulled upward not by force, but by a whisper from the sky. And just as that drop nears the canopy, a new story begins, one of sunlight meeting water and energy transforming into life's vibrant tapestry. Above the canopy, the sky is clear. A vast ocean of light stretches outward, though your eyes catch only a fraction of its brilliance. The sun, burning steadily in the darkness of space, has sent its messengers long before this moment. Each photon, a tiny packet of light, was born in the sun's core millions of years ago. There, deep in the crushing heat and pressure, hydrogen atoms fused to form helium, releasing unimaginable energy. The photons created in that fusion began their journey in chaos. For thousands upon thousands of years, they bounced and scattered inside the dense solar interior, like travelers wandering through endless fog. Each collision slowed their escape, transforming their energy into different wavelengths, softening their path. Only after this long migration did they finally burst through the surface of the sun, free to race across the emptiness at the speed of light. In a little over 8 minutes, they cross 150 million kilometers of space. They sail through the vacuum without tiring, carrying their silent, unwavering energy toward Earth. Some pass through the atmosphere and continue into the depths of space. But many are caught by clouds, air molecules, or the soft green surfaces of leaves waiting patiently below. When dawn arrives, the first photons touch the uppermost leaves like gentle fingertips. They do not make a sound, yet their arrival stirs everything. These photons are ancient travelers, beams of energy that began their story in the heart of a star, now meeting the fragile structure of a living leaf. The leaf's surface, covered with a waxy cuticle, reflects some light away, but much of it slips through, reaching the green cells beneath. Inside these cells, in the chloroplasts, sunlight is about to be transformed into life's currency. These chloroplasts, tiny green organelles, are like solar panels embedded within each cell. Their inner membranes are folded into stacks called grana, increasing the surface area available to catch light. Here, nestled within the membranes, chlorophyll waits. This pigment is the reason leaves are green, for it absorbs red and blue light strongly, but reflects green back to your eyes. Chlorophyll molecules are like nets designed to catch photons. When a photon strikes one, its energy is absorbed, exciting an electron within the molecule. This single event, so small, so quiet, is the spark that powers the entire biosphere. The excited electron doesn't remain in place. It jumps to a higher energy state and is quickly transferred along a chain of molecules within the thylakoid membrane. This electron transport chain is a series of carefully arranged proteins and pigments that pass the electron like a baton in a relay race. With each step, some of the energy is used to pump hydrogen ions across the membrane, building up a gradient like water behind a dam. Meanwhile, another extraordinary act takes place: the splitting of water. Within a cluster of proteins called photosystem 2, water molecules are pulled apart into oxygen, protons, and electrons. This reaction replenishes the electrons lost by chlorophyll and releases oxygen as a byproduct. The oxygen drifts out through the stomata, becoming part of the atmosphere you breathe with every inhale. The photons that traveled millions of kilometers have now helped tear apart water molecules, a feat of pure solar alchemy. As the electrons continue their journey, their energy builds the gradient inside the chloroplast. This gradient powers a tiny molecular machine called ATP synthase, which spins like a turbine as hydrogen ions flow through it. Each turn creates molecules of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, the energy currency that fuels nearly every cellular activity. Alongside ATP, electrons are passed to NADP+, forming NAPH, another molecule loaded with chemical energy. These two molecules, ATP and NADPH, are the treasures delivered by sunlight. They will soon feed into the next stage of photosynthesis, the Calvin cycle, where carbon dioxide is fixed and transformed into sugars. But for now, the leaf basks in the gentle, invisible fireworks of the light reactions. From the outside, Nothing seems to happen. A leaf lies still in the sun. The air is quiet. But beneath that calm, trillions of photons are striking the chloroplasts every second. Each one is captured, absorbed, converted. Each one is part of a vast, coordinated dance between light and life. Consider this. The photons arriving today are part of a cycle that began before human memory. The sunlight that touches your face each morning is ancient energy, condensed into beams, traveling through space to meet the thin green layer of Earth's living surface. Without this steady rain of light, there would be no forests, no food chains, no warmth in the soil. Everything begins here, with light falling on leaves. The precision of this process is astonishing. If the chlorophyll molecules were arranged differently, if the electron transport chain were less efficient, if water molecules were harder to split, life as we know it might never have emerged. Over billions of years, plants have refined this mechanism into near perfection, and every morning, without ceremony, they repeat it. The leaf doesn't struggle to catch the light. It simply exists in the right place, with the right structure, waiting. When photons arrive, the process unfolds naturally. There is something deeply peaceful in that, the effortless way sunlight is welcomed, transformed, and shared. In forests, the canopy captures most of the light, but lower leaves adjust by changing their chlorophyll content or angling themselves to catch dappled beams. Aquatic plants adjust to different wavelengths that penetrate water. Desert plants develop thick, reflective surfaces to manage the intensity. All across the planet, every ecosystem has its own choreography with the sun, written in the language of photons. Even as you stand beneath a tree, beams of sunlight weave between branches and leaves, painting shifting patterns on the ground. You may not notice each photon, but your eyes register their collective glow. The warmth on your skin, the brightness in the air, it is the same energy that powers the green machinery above. As noon approaches, the sunlight strengthens. Chloroplasts become busier, electrons flow faster, water molecules split in rapid succession. Tiny oxygen bubbles form inside aquatic leaves, drifting upward like silent pearls. Energy builds, stored not in light anymore, but in chemical bonds waiting to be used. By evening, the angle of light softens again. The sun lowers and photons arrive at a slant, turning the world golden. Leaves continue their quiet work, though at a gentler pace. And as darkness approaches, the light reactions slow, preparing to rest until dawn returns. The ancient travelers will arrive again tomorrow, just as they have for eons. You take a deep breath. The oxygen you inhale was once part of water. The energy in the food you eat was once sunlight held within a leaf. Every breath and every bite is a quiet connection to the star that sustains life on this planet. And as the last beams of light fade behind the horizon, the story does not end. Deep within the leaf, the energy gathered from those photons is about to flow into another process, one where invisible carbon in the air is woven into living matter. You shrink down, smaller than a grain of dust, smaller still, until the surface of the leaf rises above you like a vast green plain. You slip through the waxy cuticle, pass between the brick-like epidermal cells, and enter the soft inner tissue. Here, in the mesophyll, light filters gently through the layers, scattering in soft green glows. It is warm, quiet, almost dreamlike, as though you've stepped into a sunlit ocean of cells. Inside each cell float dozens of chloroplasts, tiny oval structures suspended in the cytoplasm like drifting lanterns. They are usually between 5 and 10 micrometers long, invisible to the naked eye, yet magnificent in purpose. These are the leaf's secret factories, its alchemical chambers where sunlight, water, and air are transformed into the building blocks of life. As you drift closer to one, its surface gleams softly. Each chloroplast is wrapped in a double membrane, smooth, protective, and permeable to the molecules that must come and go. Passing through the outer layer feels like slipping through a veil. Inside, the space opens up into a complex world of folded membranes and shimmering pigments. At the heart of the chloroplast lies the thylakoid system, a labyrinth of flattened discs stacked into columns called grana. These stacks resemble towers of green coins, connected by delicate bridges known as stroma lamellae. The arrangement is not random. It is meticulously designed to capture light efficiently. The membranes of these thylakoids are lined with molecules that will soon perform intricate light-driven reactions, like instruments arranged in a grand silent orchestra. You float closer and find yourself surrounded by chlorophyll molecules embedded in the thylakoid membranes. These pigments are positioned with precision, each ready to catch incoming photons. They shimmer faintly, their green color reflecting the wavelengths they do not use. When light strikes them, they do not heat up or glow brighter. Instead, they begin their invisible work, absorbing energy and passing it inward to specialized reaction centers. These reaction centers are like command hubs. When a photon excites a chlorophyll electron, that energy is not wasted. It is transferred with incredible speed, within trillionths of a second, to the reaction center's core. There, the electron is boosted to a higher energy state and immediately handed off to a chain of molecules. This electron transport chain is embedded in the membrane like a finely tuned circuit. But the chloroplast holds more than just this outer machinery. The stroma, the fluid filling the chloroplast's interior, surrounds the thylakoids like a clear lake. Here, a different kind of chemistry will unfold, slower, quieter, where carbon dioxide is fixed and sugars are assembled. The light reactions and the dark reactions are separate in space and function, yet perfectly synchronized, like two dancers moving in step. As you drift through this microscopic landscape, the scale of precision becomes breathtaking. Proteins, pigments, and membranes are arranged at the nanometer level to ensure that not a single photon is wasted. If even one component were misplaced, the chain would falter. But here, Everything is in its place, perfected over billions of years of evolution. Pause for a moment and imagine the chloroplast's ancestry. Long ago, over 1 billion years in the past, chloroplasts were free-living cyanobacteria, drifting in ancient seas and performing photosynthesis on their own. One day, an ancestral plant cell engulfed one of these microbes, not to digest it, but to live with it. This remarkable partnership, known as endosymbiosis, gave rise to modern chloroplasts. The evidence remains. Chloroplasts have their own DNA, circular like bacterial genomes, and their own ribosomes. They replicate independently inside plant cells, carrying a fragment of their ancient independence into every leaf. You hover at the edge of a grana stack and watch the light reactions begin. Sunlight streams in, photons strike chlorophyll, electrons are launched into the transport chain. Water molecules, drawn up through the xylem, reach the thylakoid membrane. Here, in photosystem 2, they are split into electrons, protons, and oxygen. The electrons replace those lost by chlorophyll. The protons contribute to a growing gradient, and the oxygen drifts away. A silent exhale into the atmosphere. The excited electrons travel along the cytochrome B6F complex, a protein structure that acts like a gate and pump. As electrons pass through, protons are moved across the membrane into the thylakoid interior. This builds a concentration gradient, potential energy waiting to be tapped. Further along, the electrons reach photosystem 1, are re-energized by new photons, and finally pass to NADP+ reductase, which transfers them to NADP+ to form NADPH. Along the way, ATP synthase, a spinning molecular turbine, uses the proton gradient to create ATP. From above, it looks like a living machine, but there are no gears, no engines, only molecules moving, binding, releasing, everything powered by sunlight and structured by evolution. The thylakoid membrane hums silently with activity. Billions of chloroplasts within millions of cells perform this work simultaneously across a single tree. The scale is almost unimaginable. You drift upward toward the stroma. Here, the freshly made ATP and NADPH wait. Soon they will power the Calvin cycle, which fixes carbon dioxide into stable, energy-rich sugars. The stroma is like a calm workshop, ready to receive the energy captured by the thylakoid towers. The division of labor between membrane and stroma is elegant. Light energy transformed in one space, then used for building life in another. As you hover, you realize the chloroplast is both ancient and futuristic. It runs on renewable energy, recycles water, produces oxygen, and creates food, all without noise, pollution, or waste. Human technology has yet to build anything this efficient, this elegantly balanced. The chloroplasts do not speak, but their architecture tells a story. The outer membrane whispers of cooperation between cells and their ancient bacterial guests. The grana and lamellae tell of an arms race with sunlight, evolving to catch and use every ray. The pigments hum softly of energy transformed, shared and stored. The stroma murmurs of molecules assembled, carbon woven into living form. Outside the cell, wind stirs the leaves, light flickers. But deep within, the chloroplasts continue their steady rhythm. They do not rest or hesitate. Even as a cloud passes overhead, the machinery adjusts, slowing but never stopping. It is a process both fragile and robust, dependent on light, yet adaptable to shade. As night approaches, the chloroplasts grow still. In darkness, the light reactions pause, but the chloroplast does not vanish. It waits. Its membranes remain intact, pigments ready to catch the next dawn's photons. Its ancient DNA rests quietly, holding the blueprint for tomorrow's work. You begin to drift away from the chloroplasts, rising out of the cell through the leaf's tissues. The memory of their green architecture lingers, layered, precise, alive. The sun's energy has been captured, electrons set in motion, ATP and NADPH, forged like glowing coins in a secret mint. And as you surface back into the open air, one question echoes softly. How does this captured energy weave itself into the fabric of life? How does light become sugar, structure, scent, and sweetness? The answer lies not in the chloroplast's light-catching towers, but in the quiet chemistry that follows, the hidden cycles that build life from air. You drift down again, back through the layers of the leaf, until the soft green light surrounds you like a mist. Within the chloroplasts, you find yourself hovering near the thylakoid membranes, where sunlight has begun its invisible work. There is no sound here, no flashing lights or rushing currents, yet everything moves with astonishing purpose. A storm has begun, not a storm of wind or rain, but of energy and electrons, of photons, stirring ancient molecules into motion. The thylakoid membrane stretches out before you like a vast folded sea. Its surfaces are packed with proteins and pigments, arranged with exacting precision. This is the stage on which the light reactions perform their silent symphony. Every chlorophyll molecule, every protein complex, every ion channel plays a part in this unfolding drama. Above, photons stream into the leaf. They have traveled across space, through the atmosphere, and now they strike the chlorophyll molecules embedded in the thylakoid membrane. Each photon is absorbed by a pigment in photosystem 2, exciting one of its electrons to a higher energy level. It is as if a single droplet has struck a calm surface, sending ripples outward through a still pond. The energy is passed toward the reaction center, where it reaches a special chlorophyll pair known as P680. Here, the electron is lifted fully away, handed off to a nearby acceptor molecule, beginning its journey down the electron transport chain. But as one electron leaves, another must take its place. For this, the chloroplast turns to water. Nearby, a water-splitting complex rests beside photosystem 2, It holds water molecules and, with quiet precision, tears them apart. 2 molecules of water yield 4 electrons, 4 protons, and 1 molecule of oxygen gas. The electrons are fed into photosystem 2, replacing those lost. The protons remain inside the thylakoid space, contributing to a growing gradient. The oxygen drifts away through the leaf's stomata, joining the atmosphere with the soft sigh of a byproduct that sustains life. The splitting of water is a delicate act, performed with elegant control. The manganese cluster within the water-splitting complex accumulates energy from multiple photons before finally striking the bonds that hold water together. It is one of the most remarkable chemical feats in nature, accomplished not with brute force, but with accumulated light. As the excited electrons flow down the electron transport chain, they move through a series of proteins, including the cytochrome B6F complex. This complex acts like a molecular gatehouse, passing electrons along while simultaneously pumping protons into the thylakoid lumen. With each electron transferred, more protons gather, like raindrops filling a hidden reservoir. A gradient is forming, a difference in proton concentration across the membrane that holds immense potential energy, like water held behind a dam. Meanwhile, the electrons lose some of their energy as they travel. To re-energize them, they arrive at photosystem 1, where new photons strike chlorophyll molecules and lift the electrons to a higher energy state once more. These electrons are then transferred through ferredoxin to the enzyme NADP+ reductase, where they are handed off to NADP+, along with a proton, forming NADPH, a molecule brimming with chemical energy. NADPH will soon be used to help fix carbon dioxide into sugars. The proton gradient inside the thylakoid builds until the pressure can no longer be ignored. Across the membrane sits ATP synthase, a molecular turbine embedded like a wheel at the edge of a dam. As protons flow through, the turbine spins, and with each turn, molecules of ATP are forged from ADP and inorganic phosphate. This process, called photophosphorylation, transforms the energy of light into chemical bonds, compact, portable, and ready to be used throughout the chloroplast. This entire sequence unfolds continuously, in billions of chloroplasts at once, powered simply by sunlight and water. No pumps, no pistons, no wires, just a perfectly balanced flow of energy. It is as if the thylakoid membrane has caught the light and woven it into an invisible current. The light reactions are often described in steps, but here they unfold as one seamless event. Photons excite electrons, water splits, oxygen escapes, protons accumulate, ATP and NADPH are produced. Every molecule knows its role. There is no hesitation, no wasted motion. Evolution has refined this process into near-perfect efficiency over billions of years. From your vantage point, it is like watching a gentle storm in slow motion. Photons arrive like raindrops. Electrons flash and flow like distant lightning. Proton gradients rise like swelling rivers. And ATP synthase spins quietly, turning invisible flows into tangible energy. Outside the leaf, the world remains calm. The air moves softly. The sun warms your face. But beneath the surface, this quiet storm continues, hour after hour, capturing sunlight and transforming it into energy that will fuel every green thing on Earth. Consider the elegance of what you're witnessing. The oxygen you breathe is a gift from this process. Every ATP molecule in your own cells echoes this design. Mitochondria use a similar gradient-driven turbine to power your life. The mechanisms born in chloroplasts became the blueprint for cellular energy everywhere. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, the flow intensifies. More photons arrive, more water is split, more oxygen released. The thylakoid membranes hum with activity, though you cannot hear it. It is a song without sound, a rhythm older than language. And as long as light falls, this storm will continue, quietly charging the planet with energy. Eventually, as the day wanes and light softens, the flow begins to slow. Photosystems still work, but with a gentler rhythm. The reservoir of protons gradually levels out. ATP synthase turns more slowly. The gentle storm eases, not because it has ended, but because it rests with the setting sun. What remains are the products of this elegant process: ATP and NADPH, energy stored in molecular form. These tiny chemical batteries will not sit idle. They are destined for the Calvin cycle, the next great act, where invisible carbon from the air will be woven into sugars, leaves, and life itself. You rise slowly through the green ocean of the leaf, the memory of the light reactions swirling like soft wind behind you. A storm has passed, but its energy lingers, waiting to shape something lasting. And just beyond, in the quiet stroma, another story is about to begin. One of carbon, cycles, and the invisible weaving of matter into life. The sun begins to lower, its rays softening into a warm golden hue that spills gently over the leaves. The light reactions in the thylakoid membranes have slowed, but inside the chloroplast, life continues in quiet determination. Beneath the green surface, another process awakens, not loud or luminous, but steady and intricate. This is the Calvin cycle, where energy becomes form and invisible air becomes living substance. You drift down into the stroma, the fluid-filled interior of the chloroplast that surrounds the thylakoids like a still pond. It is peaceful here, far from the electric dance of photons and electrons. No flashes, no splitting water, no oxygen escaping into the breeze. Here, the work is different, slower, methodical, like a weaver sitting at a loom. The Calvin cycle is often called the dark reaction, but this name can mislead. It does not require darkness. It simply does not depend directly on light. It continues quietly, whether the sun blazes or the stars have risen. So long as ATP and NADPH, the energy gifts from the light reactions, are present. And with those molecules now abundant in the stroma, the cycle begins its silent weaving. At the heart of this process lies a single molecule, carbon dioxide, invisible, weightless, drifting in the air. It slips through the stomata of the leaf and dissolves into the moist spaces within. From there, it diffuses into the stroma, where it encounters the enzyme rubisco, ribulose 1,5-bisphosphate carboxylase/oxygenase, one of the most abundant proteins on Earth. Rubisco is like the hand that catches threads floating through the air and places them onto the loom. Rubisco binds carbon dioxide to a 5-carbon molecule called RuBP, ribulose 1,5-bisphosphate. This union forms an unstable 6-carbon compound that splits immediately into 2 molecules of 3-phosphoglycerate, 3-PGA. This is the first step. Carbon, plucked from the air, is anchored into the world of molecules. From here, energy begins to flow into the fabric. ATP donates phosphate groups, and NADPH donates electrons, transforming 3-PGA into glyceraldehyde, 3-phosphate-G3P. This is where the sunlight's energy, captured earlier, is stitched into the carbon backbone. Each reaction is precise, guided by enzymes, like deft fingers guiding threads through a pattern. The Calvin cycle unfolds in 3 elegant stages. Carbon fixation, where carbon dioxide attaches to RuBP to form 3-PGA. Reduction, in which ATP and NADPH transform 3-PGA into energy-rich G3P, and regeneration, where some G3P exits to form sugars and other organic compounds, while the rest is recycled to regenerate RuBP, readying the cycle for another round. It takes 3 turns of the cycle to fix enough carbon to produce a single G3P molecule that can leave the cycle. To make 1 molecule of glucose, the plant must run the cycle 6 times, carefully gathering and weaving carbon atoms into a stable, sweet structure. As you watch, carbon atoms drift in like dancers entering a stage. They are caught, positioned, transformed, and woven together. Molecules twist, combine, split, and reform with gentle precision. Nothing is rushed. Every step is measured, like the soft beating of a heart. The G3P molecules formed here are small but full of potential. Some are used immediately to build glucose, which can be stored as starch within the chloroplast for later use. Others are sent out into the plant to become cellulose, forming cell walls, or transformed into sucrose, traveling through the phloem to feed distant roots, fruits, and flowers. From the air, through chemistry, into wood, fruit, and grain. This is the alchemy of life. The regeneration stage of the cycle is especially intricate. Like a loom resetting for the next row of fabric, multiple enzyme-guided steps rearrange the remaining G3P molecules back into RUBP. ATP is used again to prepare these molecules, ensuring the cycle can continue seamlessly. It's a quiet choreography, each molecule returning to its place so the weaving never stops. You float closer and notice how ATP and NADPH are gradually being used up. These molecules are like spools of golden thread, unwinding steadily as carbon is woven into form. When they run low, the cycle slows. But the energy stored in the resulting sugars will keep the plant alive through the night, fueling respiration, growth, and repair until dawn returns. Beyond the leaf, the world depends on this silent work. Every apple, every grain of wheat, every blade of grass is born from the Calvin cycle's patient weaving. The air we exhale returns carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, and plants draw it back in, stitching it into the fabric of life again. The cycle is not just a process, it is a conversation between breath and leaf, between the living and the air itself. As dusk deepens, the chloroplast remains softly lit by the energy of reactions within. No light is needed now, only the quiet turning of the cycle, the calm weaving of carbon. You sense the rhythm slowing slightly, a gentle winding down as the day closes, but it never truly stops. Even through the night, stored energy keeps some weaving going, sustaining the plant through darkness. Above you, stars begin to appear, scattered across the twilight sky. The leaf is still, but inside, the Calvin cycle continues its silent work, unseen and unwavering. It is one of nature's most profound acts, taking something invisible, intangible, and turning it into the substance of forests and fields, fruits and flowers. You drift upward, leaving the stroma, feeling as though you've just watched a master artisan at work, not with thread and loom, but with molecules and light. Below, the Calvin cycle keeps spinning, turn after turn, carbon atom after carbon atom, weaving the living world together in silence. And tomorrow, when the sun rises again, new light will arrive to refill the energy stores, and the cycle will continue, a patient, eternal rhythm at the heart of every leaf. As sunlight fades from the leaf's surface, the Calvin cycle has already woven the day's energy into delicate molecules of sugar. These small, simple compounds, glucose, sucrose, and others, are far more than mere food. They are messages, travelers, and carriers of life itself. With the rise of each molecule, energy captured from ancient photons has been transformed, stored, and prepared to journey through the living world. You shrink again, passing into the leaf's phloem, the network of vessels that transports sugars from the green factories above to every part of the plant below. The phloem is a quiet, soft highway, lined with sieve tubes and companion cells, pulsing gently with the plant's internal rhythm. Sieve plates, dotted with tiny pores, allow the sugar solution to flow while maintaining the structure of each tube. It is a careful balance between openness and protection, fluidity and stability. Here, sugar molecules dissolve in water, forming a syrupy stream known as phloem sap. This sap carries both energy and carbon, the essential building blocks of growth. The process is driven by pressure flow. Leaves generate high pressure as they load sugars into the phloem, while roots maintain lower pressure. Like water flowing downhill, the sap moves naturally from source to sink, moving nutrients from areas of abundance to areas of need. Some of this sugar travels to the roots. There, it fuels cell division and elongation, powers respiration, and provides the energy to absorb water and minerals from the soil. Tiny root hairs use these sugars to build cellular machinery and expand the plant's underground network, ensuring that it can continue to sip water and nutrients from the soil. Every root's growth is written in sugar, an invisible script that reaches unseen depths. Other molecules journey to the growing tips of stems and branches, where new leaves, buds, and flowers emerge. There, sugars are transformed into cellulose, the structural fiber that makes cell walls strong and flexible. These sugars become the scaffolding of life, shaping the plant's form, allowing it to reach towards sunlight while remaining rooted firmly in the earth. In fruits, sugars accumulate and swell, making them sweet, fragrant, and inviting. Here, sunlight's energy becomes pleasure, attraction, and sustenance. Animals and humans alike are drawn to the fruits, and in eating them, they become part of the plant's story. Seeds are dispersed, roots and shoots continue to grow elsewhere, and the cycle of life extends further. What was once a photon, billions of years old, has now become nourishment that powers movement, thought, and reproduction. But sugar's journey does not end in the plant. It enters the broader ecosystem through the food chain. Herbivores consume leaves, stems, or fruits, metabolizing the sugar into energy for movement, warmth, and life itself. Carnivores eat those herbivores, indirectly benefiting from the sun captured months or years ago in a leaf. Even decomposers, fungi and bacteria rely on sugars from fallen leaves to sustain themselves, recycling energy and nutrients back into the soil. The story of sunlight is written in every bite, every step, every breath. Inside the plant, sugars also serve as signals. Their concentration informs the plant when to grow, when to flower, when to store energy for a rainy day. High sugar levels can trigger flowering or fruit development. Low levels signal that energy is scarce. Sugars, then, are not just food. They are a language, a communication system that coordinates the plant's life across leaves, stems, and roots. Imagine yourself floating along this flow of energy, drifting in the phloem as sugar molecules glide past. Each molecule carries a trace of light, a memory of photons traveling from the sun through space and through the leaf's chloroplasts. Every step, from water drawn by the roots to electrons energized in the thylakoid, has contributed to this moment. The sugar is a vessel for the sun's story, traveling silently, invisibly, yet everywhere. The flow is dynamic. Some sugar is stored in starch granules, quietly resting in plastids within cells, waiting for night or winter when light is scarce. Other sugars continue moving outward, feeding growing tissues and distant organs. The phloem can even redistribute sugars when damage occurs, rerouting resources to protect and repair the plant. It is a living network, responsive, adaptive, and interconnected. As the sugars move, they also carry energy for respiration. Inside mitochondria, glucose molecules are broken down in carefully choreographed reactions, releasing ATP, the universal energy currency of life. This energy fuels growth, repair, movement, and the maintenance of life in cells throughout the plant. Energy captured from sunlight is now circulating in a new form, flowing invisibly but powerfully through the veins of leaves, stems, and roots. The story continues beyond the plant. Every animal that consumes plant material taps into this energy, converting chemical bonds into motion, warmth, and neural activity. Even humans participate in this ancient conversation. When you eat a slice of fruit, a handful of grains, or a green leaf, you are holding in your hands a chain of events that stretches across billions of years. Sunlight became sugar. Sugar became nourishment. Nourishment became movement, thought, and life itself. Consider oxygen, the other gift of photosynthesis. While sugars travel downward and outward, oxygen escapes upward through the stomata, filling the atmosphere you breathe. Each inhalation you take carries molecules once held in water, split and energized by sunlight. Every exhale returns carbon dioxide, which plants can capture, continuing the cycle. Life and energy are constantly exchanged, flowing like invisible currents, connecting leaf to soil, sky to body, sun to all living things. As night falls, sugar production slows. The Calvin cycle pauses, phloem flow eases, and the plant rests. But the sugars already distributed continue their work, sustaining respiration, feeding growth, and preparing the organism for the next day. The energy of sunlight, once captured, continues its journey, stored in bonds, traveling through cells, nourishing life quietly but profoundly. Floating above the leaf, you realize the scale of this process. The sugars flowing through phloem represent countless photons from countless days, billions of electrons set in motion, water split and reformed. Each molecule is a small, quiet miracle, a carrier of energy, information, and life itself. You sense the infinite network, invisible to the eye, humming with continuity and balance, connecting root, leaf, branch, and sky. And in a moment of wonder, you understand. Sugar is not merely food. It is the language of life. It speaks of light transformed into matter, of energy stored and carried, of the deep, patient connections that bind every living being to the sun and to one another. Each bite of food Each breath of air, each green leaf under sunlight is part of this endless, gentle conversation. As you drift away from the leaf, the forest stretches below you, each tree a library of sunlight captured, carbon woven into sugar, oxygen released for the air, and life sustained. Energy moves quietly, invisibly, yet everywhere. It is a rhythm that has persisted for billions of years and will continue long after night falls, long after you close your eyes to sleep. And as the sugar molecules flow onward, nourishing unseen roots, feeding growing branches, and traveling into the larger web of life, one thought lingers. The sun's light is never wasted. It travels through space, through leaf, through molecule, through every living being, leaving traces of itself in the sweet, silent language of life. The forest is quiet as you drift above the canopy. Sunlight dapples the leaves in gentle patterns, shifting with the sway of branches. Beneath that green expanse, life hums in steady rhythm. You sense that photosynthesis is not a hurried or chaotic process. It is a system of exquisite balance. Energy flows, molecules move, oxygen rises, and carbon is fixed, all in a harmony maintained across billions of cells, across continents, across time itself. Each leaf, each chloroplast is part of this equilibrium. Photons arrive and excite electrons, water molecules split, and sugars are woven in the Calvin cycle. Simultaneously, oxygen escapes into the air, and carbon dioxide is absorbed. The processes of energy capture, transformation, and storage unfold continuously, yet they are neither frantic nor disorderly. Everything has a place, a rate, a measure. Balance is evident in the way the plant responds to its environment. On a bright day, excess light can overwhelm the chloroplasts, potentially damaging delicate pigments. But plants have evolved mechanisms to dissipate this surplus energy safely, releasing it as heat or fluorescence. When sunlight wanes, the Calvin cycle adjusts, slowing to match the reduced supply of ATP and NADPH. Water intake, stomatal opening, and gas exchange are finely tuned to maintain stability. It is a living system, constantly adjusting, like a finely weighted scale, responding to the rhythm of the day and the needs of the leaf. Even at the molecular level, balance is key. The light reactions produce both ATP and NADPH, but in slightly different amounts than the Calvin cycle requires. Auxiliary pathways and electron flows adjust this ratio, ensuring that energy supply meets demand. Nothing is wasted, nothing left to chance. This delicate equilibrium is a testament to eons of refinement, to a system shaped and honed over billions of years of evolution. The oxygen released from splitting water serves as both byproduct and life-giver. It fills the atmosphere, supporting respiration in countless organisms, while the sugars created feed the plant itself and the larger ecosystem. Energy flows outward, but it is replenished inward through sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide. There is giving and receiving, output and input, movement and stillness, all in subtle, natural cadence. Floating among the leaves, you notice that the balance extends beyond individual plants. In forests, trees compete for light, yet they also create shared microclimates. The upper canopy shades lower leaves, preventing excessive heat and desiccation, while still allowing enough light for photosynthesis. Leaves at different heights, angles, and positions collectively optimize energy capture while maintaining the health of the entire ecosystem. Even chaos, wind, rain, fluctuations in sunlight, is absorbed into the system, accounted for, moderated, integrated. The day's cycle of photosynthesis mirrors the broader rhythms of the world. Sunlight rises, photons energize the chloroplasts, sugars are synthesized, oxygen enters the atmosphere, and carbon dioxide is absorbed. Then evening arrives, light fades, reactions slow, and respiration continues, drawing on stored sugars. Night is not inactivity, but a continuation of balance, a time of internal work, repair, and preparation. Photosynthesis and respiration, day and night, growth and rest, are locked in a continuous, gentle dialogue. You feel the elegance of this system, not only in its mechanics, but in its subtle intelligence. Stomata open and close, pigments adjust, enzymes catalyze with precision, water moves upward through xylem, and sugar flows through phloem. Each element is responsive yet steady, following patterns encoded deep in DNA, yet adaptable to local conditions. The leaf is both fragile and resilient, a microcosm of balance repeated across forests, fields, and meadows. Consider the carbon cycle on a global scale. Plants absorb carbon dioxide, transform it into sugars, and release oxygen. Animals breathe in that oxygen, exhale carbon dioxide, which plants then recapture. Fossil fuels store ancient sunlight captured millions of years ago, slowly releasing it back into the atmosphere. The interplay of energy, matter, and life is a dynamic equilibrium, a planetary dance orchestrated largely by photosynthesis. Without this balance, ecosystems would falter, climates would shift dramatically, and the web of life would unravel. Inside each leaf, balance is visible in the stoichiometry of molecules. 4 photons energize each electron in photosystem 2. For every water molecule split, 2 electrons replace lost ones, 2 protons contribute to the gradient, and 1 oxygen molecule escapes. For each turn of the Calvin cycle, carbon atoms are fixed into sugar molecules in exact proportions. ATP and NADPH are consumed carefully, stored only as needed, and replenished continuously. This precision ensures that the energy captured from sunlight is neither wasted nor insufficient. Even the timing of photosynthesis follows a rhythm. Many plants employ circadian clocks, anticipating sunrise and sunset to optimize energy capture. Others adjust to seasonal changes, modulating leaf orientation, chlorophyll concentration, and enzyme activity to maintain balance throughout the year. Every adjustment is measured, a subtle response to ensure that the leaf's internal chemistry and the external environment remain in harmony. As you float among the leaves, you sense that photosynthesis is a meditation in motion. Energy flows in measured currents, molecules shift in orderly sequences, and the output, sugars, oxygen, life, is produced quietly, reliably, and elegantly. There is a stillness in its motion, a calm continuity in its rhythm, a soft assurance that life is sustained. The system is alive, responsive, and timeless, a steady heartbeat beneath the noisy world. Even when disturbances arise, a storm, drought, or temporary shading, the leaf adjusts. Excess energy is safely dissipated. Stomata regulate water loss. Sugars are redistributed, and repair mechanisms engage. Photosynthesis is not fragile chaos. It is resilience in motion, a careful balance of energy intake, energy storage, and energy expenditure. This balance allows the living world to persist, to thrive, to continue evolving without tipping into disorder. You rise above the canopy, taking in the forest as a whole. Each leaf is a small node in a vast network of energy transformation, yet the collective system operates in synchrony. Sunlight falling on one tree is captured, processed, and dispersed in ways that ripple outward through ecosystems. Oxygen levels remain stable. Carbon dioxide cycles. Sugars feed myriad organisms. Balance is everywhere, microscopic, macroscopic, and planetary. And as night approaches, the sun sets, the photons retreat, and photosynthesis slows. You feel the deep elegance of the system. It has operated for billions of years with quiet consistency, maintaining life on Earth. It has sustained forests, meadows, rivers, and seas. It has powered evolution, growth, and survival. It has been both patient and precise, a rhythm woven into the very fabric of existence. Even in darkness, the balance persists. Energy stored in sugars continues to feed respiration. Carbon flows, oxygen cycles, and water moves through roots and leaves. The interplay of giving and receiving, of light and dark, of growth and rest, continues without pause. The leaf rests, but the system endures, steady, reliable, and exquisitely balanced. And you sense, in that calm and quiet, that this is the rhythm that has held the world in harmony for eons. The silent, tireless balance of photosynthesis, sustaining life and connecting every breath, every leaf, every living thing. Close your eyes and the present fades. You drift backward, through time, through layers of rock and memory, to a world unlike the one you know. The sky is muted, hazy, and heavy with unbreathed gases. The oceans are deep and still, vast expanses of liquid waiting, unadorned by coral or kelp. Life is present, but sparse. Tiny cells swimming silently, performing the quietest of tasks in a barren, alien landscape. Here, among the earliest photosynthetic organisms, cyanobacteria float in the shallow waters. These microscopic pioneers are unassuming, simple, yet their impact will echo across billions of years. Each one carries a chlorophyll-like pigment, able to capture sunlight and convert it into energy. Their world is small, constrained, yet teeming with potential. As you move closer, you witness a cyanobacterium splitting water molecules with tiny, precise reactions. Oxygen, new to the atmosphere, escapes into the surrounding water. At first, it is dangerous, even toxic, to the anaerobic organisms that had dominated the early Earth. Yet gradually, oxygen accumulates, diffusing slowly into the sky above. It is a silent, patient transformation, almost imperceptible day by day, year by year, epoch by epoch. This era is called the Great Oxidation Event, though it unfolds not as an event, but as a slow, steady wave of change. Cyanobacteria and early photosynthetic microbes release oxygen in a rhythm dictated by sunlight, tides, and nutrient availability. Slowly, the air begins to breathe differently. The oceans begin to shimmer with new chemistry, and iron-rich rocks rust under the invisible hand of free oxygen. You float over shallow tidal pools, where bubbles of oxygen rise and merge, creating shimmering surfaces that glint in the sunlight. Tiny organisms adapt or perish. Ecosystems shift imperceptibly. The simple act of splitting water molecules begins to rewrite the rules of life itself. Energy from the sun, captured by these microscopic factories, becomes the architect of a new world. Above you, the atmosphere gradually changes. Oxygen levels, once non-existent, begin to climb, forming a thin layer that will one day shield the surface from harmful ultraviolet radiation. Clouds form, rains fall, and weather begins to follow new patterns, influenced by the oxygenated skies. Even the chemistry of the oceans changes. Iron precipitates, carbonate structures stabilize, and nutrients cycle differently. Photosynthesis, in its quiet, persistent way, reshapes the planet itself. Cyanobacteria form mats, thick layers of green in shallow waters. They cluster, photosynthesize, and store energy. These stromatolites are some of the earliest evidence of life's engineering on a planetary scale. With each generation, oxygen diffuses further, the world gradually becoming hospitable to more complex organisms. Every photon captured, every water molecule split, contributes to a chain reaction that will ripple across the eons. Time stretches, and you see life respond. Single-celled organisms evolve new strategies to use oxygen, to harness it for respiration, to thrive in ways previously impossible. Multicellular life emerges later, flourishing in oceans now rich with energy and chemistry. Forests, trees, and eventually you all owe their existence to these first photosynthetic acts. The story of light transformed into life began in these tiny, unseen cells. Even today, the echoes of that time remain in every leaf, every green ocean surface, every breath you take. Photosynthesis did not merely create energy for the microbes themselves. It reshaped the very chemistry of Earth, setting the stage for continents, skies, rivers, and life in all its diversity. The oxygen you breathe, the sugars in your food, the vast forests stretching across continents, all are descendants of this patient work. Floating further back, you realize the scale of patience and persistence. These microscopic cells operated for millions of years, unnoticed by any sentient being, yet their collective action altered a planet. Energy captured from the sun, stored in molecular bonds, released oxygen into the air, and slowly built the conditions necessary for complex life. It is a reminder that even the smallest actors, working quietly and consistently, can shape the future in unimaginable ways. You drift closer to a stromatolite reef, watching the layers accumulate over centuries. Each layer is a record of sunlight captured, oxygen produced, and life persisting. The reef grows slowly, yet each centimeter represents untold numbers of generations, untold cycles of energy flowing, matter transforming. The patience of these processes dwarfs human time, yet their results define the very world in which you now exist. As you rise above these ancient seas, the planet seems to hold its breath, balanced between what has been and what is to come. Photosynthesis, first whispered by cyanobacteria, has become the steady pulse of life. It has turned barren oceans into teeming habitats, created breathable skies, and laid the foundation for forests, animals, and humans. The world is alive, and it owes its breath and energy to these unseen pioneers. Time bends gently, carrying you forward to a more familiar landscape, one where green leaves wave in sunlight and oxygen fills the air. Yet the echoes of the ancient cyanobacteria remain in every chloroplast, in every photosynthetic leaf. The machinery, the rhythm, the processes, all inherited, refined, and perpetuated. You sense the continuity of life, a thread woven from the first oxygen bubbles to the forests and fields around you today. And as you hover over a modern leaf, the history beneath your eyes is almost tangible. Sunlight still flows, electrons still move, sugars are woven, oxygen still rises. The echoes of time resonate in every photon captured, every molecule transformed, every breath you take. Photosynthesis has not only sustained life, it has balanced it, shaped it, and carried the story of Earth forward for billions of years. You leave the ancient oceans behind, returning to the present, yet the rhythm persists. You sense that the balance achieved by cyanobacteria continues today, in every leaf, in every plant, in every breath and bite. The story of light, water, and carbon is ongoing, continuous, and eternal. Life's rhythm, first whispered in microscopic waters, continues to pulse through the world, quiet, patient, and unbroken. And in that reflection, one truth becomes clear. The world you see, the air you breathe, the leaves above you, all are echoes of a time when tiny cells first transformed sunlight into life, setting the stage for everything that would follow. You step quietly into the forest, the air cool and fragrant with earth and leaves. Sunlight filters through layers of green, dappling the ground in soft patterns that shift with the sway of branches above. Each leaf catches light in its own delicate way, and together they form a living canopy, a mosaic of sunlight and shade, energy and life. It is easy to forget that the forest is not merely a collection of trees. It is a vast, breathing network of energy transformation, a symphony conducted by sunlight itself. Every leaf you pass is alive with activity. Chloroplasts shimmer faintly in the cells, capturing photons, splitting water, and weaving carbon into sugar. Oxygen rises silently from countless stomata, drifting upward, mingling with the wind. The air itself becomes a living medium, infused with the quiet work of billions of leaves. You feel it brushing against your skin, carrying both freshness and history, a whisper of life that stretches across the forest. You notice how leaves adjust to their environment. Some tilt toward shafts of light, maximizing energy capture. Others fold slightly to avoid overheating. Some leaves near the forest floor must make do with scattered sunbeams filtering through the canopy. Yet even in low light, photosynthesis continues, slow but steady. Every leaf, regardless of position, contributes to the collective rhythm. The forest thrives not because of a single tree, but because of this orchestration, this balance among millions of leaves. Beneath your feet, roots interweave through soil rich with nutrients. Some connect with fungi in mycorrhizal networks, forming symbiotic partnerships that carry sugars and minerals between trees. What is above, the chorus of photosynthesis, is mirrored below, an underground conversation sustaining the forest from leaf to root. Energy captured from sunlight is not only stored and consumed within each tree, but shared, redistributed, ensuring the survival and growth of the community. The forest, in this sense, is a living web, its whispers travelling through air and soil alike. Birds flit among branches, insects crawl across bark, and small mammals tread softly through undergrowth. Each organism benefits from the energy captured by the leaves, from the oxygen rising in quiet currents. A squirrel pauses to nibble on a seed filled with sugar, itself a product of photosynthesis months before. Every bite, every breath, every movement traces back to photons captured, electrons moved, and carbon atoms woven into sugar. Life is a chain, and the forest is the central hub of energy distribution. You raise your gaze to the canopy above. Sunlight filters through layers of green, creating pockets of warmth and shadow. Each leaf contributes to this subtle light show, absorbing photons, capturing energy, and simultaneously protecting the forest floor from excess heat. Photosynthesis is everywhere, yet invisible. A silent engine that hums softly, shaping both the microclimate and the ecosystem. The forest feels alive, not just in movement, but in its constant, invisible work. Even the forest's soundscape is influenced by this chorus. The rustle of leaves, the whisper of branches, the murmur of streams, all are connected to photosynthesis. Water drawn up through xylem supports transpiration, regulating temperature and humidity, and in doing so, creates the gentle wind that carries whispers through the trees. The forest breathes, inhales carbon dioxide, exhales oxygen, and sustains a web of life, both seen and unseen. You wander along a narrow path, stepping over roots and fallen leaves, and sense the continuity of time in this living system. Some trees have stood for centuries, their leaves contributing to photosynthesis for generations. New seedlings sprout in the dappled light, ready to continue the work. The energy of sunlight, captured day by day, links past and future, an unbroken chain of growth, respiration, and renewal. The forest is both ancient and constantly reborn, a testament to resilience and balance. Small pools of water reflect the sky and the canopy above. Aquatic plants, algae, and submerged leaves continue the same process you have seen in the forest, transforming light into energy and oxygen. Even these hidden corners contribute to the forest's whisper, connecting water, air, and land. Photosynthesis, though quiet and often unseen, unites the ecosystem, producing energy that radiates outward, supporting life far beyond the reach of a single tree or leaf. Walking deeper, you notice the subtle differences among leaves. Some are broad, thin, and light-catching, others small, thick, or waxy to conserve water. Each adaptation is a variation on a theme, a response to sunlight, moisture, and environment. Yet all follow the same principle: capturing energy, splitting water, producing oxygen, and weaving carbon into sugar. The diversity of form does not disrupt the rhythm. It strengthens it, allowing the forest to function as a single, coordinated organism composed of many independent units. You pause beneath a massive oak, its branches stretching in all directions. The leaves above you are a symphony of motion, energy, and life. Sunlight dances across them. Oxygen rises in invisible currents. Sugars flow down to roots and across branches, feeding growth, repair, and reproduction. It is a network of interdependence, a chorus of giving and receiving, each element performing its part with quiet precision. This is the essence of balance in the forest, a rhythm that has persisted for millennia. The wind carries scents of flowers, wet earth, and fallen leaves. It whispers stories of sunlight captured, sugars transported, and oxygen released. You inhale deeply, aware that every breath you take contains molecules that have passed through countless leaves, streams, and cycles of life. Photosynthesis is not confined to the leaf alone. It extends outward, shaping air, soil, water, and the lives of all creatures within the forest. You are part of this continuum, a participant in the forest's whisper. As the sun dips lower, shadows stretch, and the forest slows its rhythms. Photosynthesis gradually decreases, but the energy already stored in sugars continues to feed respiration, growth, and repair. Oxygen persists in the air, supporting nocturnal life, while the forest itself seems to exhale in calm, rhythmic harmony. Even in stillness, the forest remains alive, a quiet, breathing testament to the power and patience of sunlight captured, molecules transformed, and life sustained. You rise above the canopy, the entire forest unfolding beneath you. Rivers of light, rivers of sugar, rivers of oxygen flow in invisible patterns through trees, undergrowth, and soil. The whispers you have felt, heard, and sensed now form a chorus, spanning acres and generations. The forest is more than a collection of leaves. It is an orchestra of life, an enduring balance maintained through sunlight, water, and carbon. It is patient, resilient, and endlessly giving. And as twilight settles over the treetops, you feel the forest's pulse beneath you. Leaves continue their work, roots still draw water, oxygen continues to rise, and sugars travel unseen. The whisper of photosynthesis fills the air, gentle yet persistent, a reminder that life endures through balance, rhythm, and interconnectedness. The forest breathes, and you are held within its quiet song, suspended in a network that has persisted for eons and will continue long after the stars rise. You pause and draw a deep breath, feeling the air fill your lungs, cool and slightly sweet. With this single act, you participate in a cycle that stretches across time and space, connecting you to every leaf, every tree, every patch of ocean green. Each molecule of oxygen you inhale carries a story. Water split in the distant past, photons absorbed, electrons energized, carbon transformed into sugar. You are breathing the gift of photosynthesis. Close your eyes and imagine the journey of one oxygen molecule. It begins in a leaf, somewhere far away, where sunlight strikes chlorophyll and splits water molecules in a quiet, precise reaction. 2 hydrogen atoms are used to form energy-rich compounds, while oxygen atoms are released into the air, free to drift, carried by the wind, bouncing through the canopy, over oceans, across continents. Billions of years of sunlight, evolution, and energy transfer culminate in this invisible, weightless traveler entering your lungs. As you exhale, carbon dioxide leaves your body, returning to the atmosphere. In this simple exchange, You participate in a conversation with the entire biosphere. Plants will capture this carbon, integrate it into sugars, and release oxygen again. You and the leaves are linked, two parts of a single, ongoing process. Your breath is both a gift and a response, a rhythm echoing that of every living organism that relies on photosynthesis. The air around you carries other gifts as well. Nitrogen, carbon dioxide, traces of water vapor, and countless airborne molecules circulate in invisible currents, shaped by oceans, forests, and sunlight. Each inhalation contains the distilled work of countless photosynthetic cycles, from microscopic algae in remote seas to towering redwoods reaching toward the sky. It is an orchestra of chemistry, a symphony that has played for billions of years, invisible yet fundamental to your existence. Inhale again, slowly, deliberately. Feel the oxygen dissolve into your blood, binding to hemoglobin, carried to every cell in your body. Every heartbeat distributes it, fueling mitochondria to generate ATP, the universal energy currency of life. With every exhale, waste products return to the air, where they may once again be captured by leaves. You sense a rhythm, a pulse shared between human and leaf, body and forest, present and ancient past. Look closer within yourself, at the microscopic scale where energy flows. Electrons shuttle along chains in mitochondria. Protons move through gradients. Chemical bonds are broken and reformed, all fueled indirectly by photons absorbed by chlorophyll. Every movement, every thought, every twitch of muscle traces back to sunlight captured in some green leaf long before your birth. Your body is a living testament to photosynthesis, a continuation of energy's journey through time and space. Breathe slowly and notice the wind brushing through the trees around you. Leaves move gently, oxygen dispersing, sugars traveling through phloem, water drawn up through roots. Across the forest, trillions of tiny factories operate simultaneously, and their cumulative output fills the air with the very molecules sustaining your life. You realize that the distinction between inside and outside, self and environment, becomes blurred. You are not separate from the forest. You are part of its rhythm, its process, its flow. Consider the history of this air. Long ago, it may have been part of a cyanobacterium's oxygen bubble, rising from ancient oceans into an unbreathable sky. It may have passed through dinosaur lungs, nourished the forests of the Carboniferous, flowed across glaciers, or been carried by storms across deserts. Each molecule is ancient and enduring, a reminder of continuity, persistence, and interconnection. You inhale not just oxygen, but the story of life itself. Even in the modern world, photosynthesis shapes your surroundings. Urban trees filter air, city gardens produce oxygen, oceans of phytoplankton maintain atmospheric balance. Without this invisible network, every breath would be different, every heartbeat slower, every life shorter. It is a silent system, operating day and night, sustaining trillions of organisms without fanfare or ceremony. And yet, every inhalation you take is a direct benefit of this quiet, ongoing miracle. You feel a gentle warmth as your awareness expands. Each breath carries more than oxygen. It carries sunlight, water, carbon, and energy, all integrated through countless photosynthetic acts. It connects you to every tree you have ever seen, every leaf that has ever captured light, every organism that has relied on this system to survive. The air in your lungs is alive with history, motion, and potential. It is a legacy you carry moment to moment. As you walk through a forest, river, or meadow, you notice the subtle variations in air quality, fragrance, and movement. They are shaped by the interplay of photosynthesis, respiration, and evaporation. Forests exhale oxygen and moisture. Rivers transport dissolved carbon, and leaves filter sunlight. These processes combine to create microclimates, sustaining not only plants and animals, but the very comfort and livability of the environment you inhabit. Every breath is shaped by this interplay. Your exhalation becomes a rhythm synchronized with the forest. In and out, give and receive, inhale and exhale, a reflection of the world's own balance. You sense the elegance of this system, the precise timing, the delicate feedback loops. Photosynthesis is not a single act, but a network spanning continents, oceans, and lifetimes. Your breath connects you to this network, both contributor and beneficiary, small yet inseparably linked. Pause for a moment and feel gratitude for this silent labor. Leaves have captured photons, split water, built sugars, released oxygen, and maintained balance for billions of years. You, in turn, breathe this oxygen, metabolize sugars, and contribute carbon dioxide back into the cycle. The boundary between self and world dissolves. You are part of the system, a moving node in a network that extends across species, ecosystems, and eons. The forest, the ocean, and the sky are within you as much as you are within them. Even at night, when photosynthesis slows or pauses, its legacy endures. Stored sugars continue to fuel life, oxygen remains in the atmosphere, and carbon dioxide waits for the next sunrise to be captured again. Every breath you take is a continuation of this rhythm, a subtle echo of sunlight transformed into life, energy, and sustenance. The cycle is patient, persistent, and timeless. You walk slowly, inhaling deeply with each step. You feel your lungs expand, your chest rise, and your awareness stretch. Oxygen enters, energy flows, carbon leaves. Every inhale and exhale becomes a meditation, a recognition of interconnection, a moment to honor the countless leaves, the oceans, and the sun that make life possible. You sense a quiet reverence in this simple act of breathing, a connection that is both immediate and eternal. And as you breathe again, you realize the air you take in, the energy you feel, the life within you. It all began with light, water, and leaves. You are part of a chain of photosynthesis that spans billions of years, connecting past to present, plant to animal, self to world. Your breath is their gift, and in returning carbon dioxide, you offer life in exchange. In this delicate reciprocity, the boundary between you and nature dissolves. The sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in gentle shades of amber, lavender, and deepening blue. The forest slows, leaves swaying softly in a cool evening breeze. The air carries a hushed tranquility, a quiet acknowledgement that the day's work has ended. Photosynthesis, that tireless, invisible engine of life, gradually eases. Light-driven reactions cease, electrons settle, and chloroplasts rest within cells. The leaves are still, yet the energy captured during the day is stored, ready to fuel life through the night. You walk beneath the fading light, noticing how the forest seems to exhale. Carbon dioxide rises from soil, roots, and respiration, mingling with the remaining oxygen in the air. Even in darkness, the cycle continues in subtle ways. Sugars synthesized during daylight feed cellular activity. Roots absorb water and nutrients. Mitochondria produce energy quietly. Life is not paused. It is transformed, sustained by what has already been captured. Night is not emptiness. It is a gentle continuation. The canopy above you filters the last golden rays, allowing shafts of light to linger in pockets between branches. Shadows stretch across the forest floor, softening the world into muted forms. The rhythm of photosynthesis, now silent, leaves behind its trace in the energy stored as sugars. These molecules will nourish growth, repair tissues, and power respiration until the sun returns. The forest rests, but the story of energy, life, and light is unbroken, a promise repeated with each passing day. At this hour, creatures emerge who rely less on sunlight and more on the stored energy of the forest. Nocturnal animals stir, insects glide along branches, owls take flight, and small mammals forage quietly. They too are part of the cycle, feeding on sugars, fruits, seeds, and the energy captured during daylight. Even in darkness, life pulses with a steady, gentle beat, sustained by the labors of leaves that now sleep under the night sky. You pause to notice the subtle transformations occurring within leaves themselves. Chloroplasts, having ceased light-driven activity, continue to manage internal balance, store sugars, and prepare for the next day. The plant maintains its internal chemistry, redistributing energy as needed, repairing cells, and regulating water and nutrient flow. The quiet work of life continues, just at a slower, meditative pace, echoing the rhythm of the forest as a whole. Above, the wind whispers through the branches, carrying scents of soil, flowers, and wet leaves. Moisture from transpiration settles gently onto the forest floor, replenishing the air with subtle humidity. Water that climbed from roots earlier in the day remains stored within tissues, ready to fuel respiration and growth overnight. The forest, in its collective stillness, remains a living system, responsive and resilient, even when the sun is absent. The stars begin to pierce the deepening sky, tiny points of light reflecting distant suns, whose photons may one day reach Earth. You consider how these photons, like the ones that power photosynthesis, travel vast distances before energizing life. The forest rests under the same cosmic rhythm, connected to a universe that operates on cycles both immense and minute. In darkness, the world feels expansive, yet intimate. Every leaf and organism, a note in a grand symphony. Walking among the trees, you notice how leaves orient themselves to minimize heat loss and preserve moisture. Some close, slightly, reducing exposure and evaporation. Others maintain structural integrity, ensuring that tomorrow's sunlight will find them ready. Even in rest, leaves are mindful participants in the ongoing balance of energy, water, and life. Night is not absence, but preparation, a quiet prelude to the miracle that will resume with the morning sun. You sense the forest as a living heartbeat. Respiration continues, drawing on stored sugars, releasing carbon dioxide, and supporting cellular processes. Roots absorb remaining water and nutrients. Fungi redistribute resources, and decomposers recycle organic material. Energy captured in daylight flows subtly through networks of leaves, roots, and soil, sustaining the living web. Though invisible, the rhythm is persistent, like a soft drumbeat under the hush of night. Above, the moon rises, casting silver light on leaves and branches. Shadows shift and elongate, revealing textures and forms hidden in daylight. The forest seems to breathe with this nocturnal light, reflecting and absorbing, conserving and preparing. The interplay of energy, water, and matter continues, muted but deliberate. Night is the forest's meditation, a time for recovery and quiet reflection before the next day's activity. You inhale slowly, the cool air filling your lungs, carrying the subtle scent of photosynthesis past. Oxygen released hours earlier, mingled with carbon dioxide from the soil and animals. Each breath reminds you that you are part of this balance, connected to leaves, trees, animals, and the cycles of energy that stretch back through time. The forest's whisper continues in the rhythm of your own breathing, a reminder that life persists even in apparent stillness. As darkness deepens, the canopy becomes a protective roof, shielding the forest floor from temperature extremes and conserving moisture. Nocturnal organisms move in harmony with this rhythm, taking advantage of energy stored in sugars, while daylight creatures sleep, drawing from reserves built during the sunlit hours. Photosynthesis rests, but the results of its work ripple through the ecosystem, sustaining life quietly, invisibly, faithfully. In this peaceful moment, you recognize the elegance of cycles. Day and night, light and dark, energy captured and energy spent, all balanced with delicate precision. Leaves rest, yet their work persists in stored energy. Animals rest, yet they are fueled by sugars and oxygen generated during the day. Life continues, uninterrupted, resilient, and patient. The forest has learned to move and rest in harmony, a rhythm honed over millions of years. You rise above the canopy once more, gazing over a landscape of sleeping trees, still rivers, and quiet hills. Shadows blend with moonlight, water reflects starlight, and the air is thick with the legacy of photosynthesis. Energy flows beneath your notice, through veins of leaves, networks of roots, and the atmosphere itself. Even in darkness, the system endures, maintaining balance, storing energy, and preparing for the sun's return. And as you watch the first stars fade into dawn on the horizon, you understand the gentle promise of night. Leaves rest, sugars are stored, oxygen fills the air, and water remains ready to climb once more. Cycles pause, but are never broken. Tomorrow, sunlight will return. Photons will energize chloroplasts. Water will split. Electrons will flow. And sugars will once again be woven. Life continues, patient and eternal, in a quiet, beautiful rhythm. And in that calm, you feel the forest exhale with you, the leaves' gentle promise stretching across the night, awaiting the first light of a new day. As twilight drapes the world in soft indigo and silver, the forest exhales in calm rhythm, and leaves settle into a peaceful rest. The energy captured during the day lingers in the trees, flowing quietly through roots, stems, and soil, sustaining life through the night. You feel a gentle warmth in your chest, a quiet joy that comes from being part of this interconnected world. Even in stillness, life continues, patient, graceful, and unwavering. Closing your eyes, you carry a soft happiness within you, a tender hope that tomorrow will bring sunlight, warmth, and endless quiet miracles, waiting to be discovered once again.